I've been playing with my AYN Odin since I got it last year. Everything about it has just made it such a great fit for me. It's sleek, has a great screen, great buttons, and it's a great performer. It's really good as is, but I'm realizing that maybe it's not aging as well as I had hoped. Even then, this is still my favorite retro handheld because it addresses so many of my needs. Introducing the AYN Odin, my favorite retro handheld of 2023. So far. Let's dive right in. The exterior design consists of plastic for the entirety of the build. It is a matte design that has withstood the test of time and all of my usage. It's pretty great. It's super thin too, with some LED lights on the sides and by the thumbsticks. This device feels and looks really nice, with no other device really matching it in terms of its design, at least when it comes to retro handhelds and Android handhelds. On the front, you're going to find your buttons and analog sticks. On the top, you will find your triggers, which are analog, a flap with a micro HDMI port, and a micro SD card slot. You will also find some cooling vents, a volume rocker, and a sleep-wake button. On the bottom, you're going to find a set of stereo speakers, a headphone jack, and a USB-C port. On the back, you're going to find another cooling vent and two remappable buttons. The buttons still feel amazing on this device, as we've got really solid buttons with plenty of travel, a nice and clicky D-pad that allows more smooth rolling, and the wonderful analog sticks. The triggers are also fantastic, really, and they feel really nice to use. They aren't sticking yet or anything like that, so this aspect of the hardware has aged quite nicely. Seriously, I still love my Odin, as is, and this is the Android handheld for me. The other ones don't really beat it, in my opinion. This device features a 5.98-inch 1920 by 1080 IPS display that still looks absolutely beautiful. It's not the best display in the market right now because the Razer Edge has an AMOLED screen that offers deeper blacks and more vibrant colors. With that said, the screen is still really good, and I've had zero complaints about it. It's very colorful, beautiful, gets very bright, and overall, you will have a very pleasant gaming experience on this device. I look at the screen and I'm very satisfied with the viewing angles as well. It's just a beautifully crafted display. I quite literally have no complaints even a year later. So the stereo speakers on this device are pretty fantastic, at least for such a thin device. There is depth, they get pretty loud, and overall, these are just really good for handheld gaming, so have a listen. This device features a Snapdragon 845 CPU, 8GB of RAM, 128GB of storage, which is also expandable through the micro SD card slot, and a 6600 mAh battery. All of these specs are pretty good for an Android device at this price, and it so far has aged fairly well. When it comes to the OS, we're looking at Android 11, I believe. This gives us a really clean interface, and one that if you use an Android phone already, like me, then you would already know how to use this device. Plus, it comes with the Play Store by default, which is awesome. Some devices don't come with the Play Store, so it's great to see that your premium handheld does have a feasible way of downloading apps. Either way, we've been down this road before already, so let's move on to the gaming performance. And this time, I would kind of like to keep this section maybe just a little bit shorter than before, so I won't test some of the super low-end systems. We're gonna dive right into PlayStation 1. Now let's talk about the gaming performance. We're only going to test emulation because I exclusively use my Odin for emulation. I don't do any game streaming with it, nor do I play any Android games on it. It's totally possible, and it does do really well on these fronts, but I just want to focus on emulation. So speaking of, PlayStation 1 emulation through the DuckStation emulator is really good. You can do quite a bit of upscaling for the majority of games, and that includes even upscaling them for an HD screen. This should be able to handle being upscaled to 1080p for most games, but I'm very comfortable already just upscaling them to 720p. For example, Valkyrie Profile, which is a game that I just started, looks absolutely amazing and runs beautifully on this device. This is a pixel-based game, but I have scarcely seen this much detail from any pixel-based game before, not counting Octopath Traveler or Triangle Strategy, because those use a lot of 3D assets. So Valkyrie Profile is more than playable in HD and looks absolutely incredible. No issues here. PSP was also stellar. I used the PPSSPP emulator to make things run, and I could do some upscaling on games like God of War very easily. I believe I had this instance running at 3x, which is good enough really for me, but it should be able to handle even more. Every PSP game that I tested on this device runs very beautifully, and I haven't encountered any stutters or audio issues whatsoever. To me, there are a lot of great PSP games, mostly anime games, that I hope to enjoy on this device, and I've had no concerns playing these games at all. You can play Persona 3 Portable on this too, which is a massive game in terms of content, so there's a lot to look forward to there. Thankfully, we have seen some ports of some important games like Persona 3 Portable, but I still really love the ability to customize the experience for myself through the PPSSPP emulator. So again, no issues here. When it comes to PlayStation 2 performance through the Ether SX2 emulator, here we are looking at pretty good performance too, but don't expect to do any kind of upscaling, at least nothing beyond 1.5 upscaling, which is already pushing the system a bit. With games like Kingdom Hearts 2, you should have a very good time here. Other games like Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, the Final Fantasy games like 10 and 12, and the like will all run quite well at 1x resolution, and even can be pushed a little to 1.5x depending on the game, but when it comes to other games like Dirge of Cerberus, you will have more of a tough time. Some games just won't run as well, and that's understandable. I would really like to see a device or an upgraded Odin that really hammers in on PlayStation 2 and GameCube emulation. Now that would be a dream, honestly. But right now, not every game will run too well on this device, even if most of them do run pretty well at 1x and sometimes even at 1.5x. GameCube performance is a pretty similar story. Going through the Dolphin MMJR2 emulator through the Vulkan backend, we can achieve similar performance with games like Twilight Princess, but other games will still run pretty well, such as Shadow the Hedgehog, Naruto Clash of Ninja, Mario Sunshine, and many more. This is a pretty good GameCube machine, but there are still going to be limitations, I'm sure. While I haven't played any games on this that run poorly or subpar, I have to say that a lot of these games do already push the Odin quite a bit, and it shows with the frequent frame dips in some games at 1x resolution, so it is worth keeping that into consideration. Although this hasn't been much of an issue with the games I like to play. Either way, it's a pretty good experience overall. So using the exact same emulator, I tested out Wii performance, and when it comes to the Wii emulation, things were pretty similar already. I played Naruto Shippuden Clash of Ninja 3 for this portion, but I've tested many games like Sonic Colors, Silent Hill, Skyward Sword, and many others. I've experienced pretty good performance in these games, of course, while running them at 1x resolution. There is even haptic feedback or vibrations, I should say, coming from this console for some games, so you get a pretty nice experience. I like this device for playing Wii games, and I'm glad that it can withstand playing Wii games like this. However, I would love an upgrade that addresses this so that I can play more comfortably at 2x resolution, and I guess that this is what I meant when I said that the Odin is aging. Already I'm wanting more from an Android handheld, more that I haven't seen from any other handheld so far. Besides Windows handhelds and the Steam Deck, of course, but with that said, this is pretty good performance for what it is. Next, we have the dock experience. So there is a first-party dock that you can get for your Odin, and it is a pretty nice dock. What I like most about it is that it does come with some ports for plugging in some retro controllers, such as an N64 controller and a GameCube controller. I also just happened to have a GameCube controller around that I plugged in and got to playing some games. I don't play docked very often, so this was actually kind of nice to just see how well the dock still works even to this day. I still want to do this more frequently to play some PlayStation 2 exclusive games that I really miss, but I've been doing it lately with GameCube games, and that has been a blast. Performance has been pretty great. When it comes to battery life, I would say that it's not really the same that it used to be. Before, it would easily last 5 hours or 4 hours if I was lucky on a more demanding game, but lately I'm noticing that 4 hours is really mostly the max and 3 hours is just more likely, so the battery is showing some signs of falling behind, but it's not bad still. It's one of the better ratings for battery life for many Android handhelds. So in conclusion, this is a really good handheld, and while I don't foresee an upgrade coming to the Android front this year, I think that we should try to aim for more recent CPU that can handle 2x gameplay for Wii, GameCube, and PlayStation 2. but that is quite literally the only thing I would change about the Odin to this day. I want to keep the sleek form factor, so I don't mind the current battery life. It's still pretty good. I love my Odin and tend to prefer it because it resembles the Switch Lite so much in terms of its form factor. To me, for a portable device, form factor is very important, and I need it to be sleek and small so that I can feel comfortable just tossing it in a bag filled with other things and taking that with me. So with that said, I still believe that the Odin is absolutely worth it. We don't know when the next upgrade will come, and that $300 price tag is still very nice for what it is. The Steam Deck exists, and it is more powerful, way more powerful than the AYN Odin. But the Odin is simpler for emulation because of Android, and the form factor is hard to beat. Other devices like the Razer Edge and the Logitech G Cloud are great performance-wise, but they missed the mark in terms of the form factor. So yes, I think the Odin is my favorite of the bunch, so strongly recommend it. But before anything, there is still one more handheld that I would like to talk about, just very quickly. So the Retroid Pocket Flip just reached my doorstep fairly recently, and I've been playing with it as of late to see whether or not I'm going to like it. And I really can't wait to share my findings with you all, because I think that this is pretty important information to share, or at the very least an important take to share. So please stay tuned for that. Please make sure to subscribe for that if that is something that would interest you, because I will be reviewing it pretty soon along with many other retro handhelds as the year comes along. So yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video all the way up until the very end. I do really appreciate it. And please make sure to follow me on places like Twitch and Instagram. I will be on Twitch now more frequently because the semester is pretty much over. I think I only have one more class left before I get my grades in. So yeah, pretty much I should be back to streaming. You can also follow me on Instagram for other posts. Now with that said, do make sure to subscribe. That's probably the most important thing, and let me know your thoughts in the comments about this video if you had anything that you would like to share. But with that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and until next time, have a good one. Enjoy.